So before getting started with today's video, there's a couple things I need to say. Number one, everything we talk about is unconfirmed. Unless it comes directly from Valve, nothing that we say today is 100% legitimate and real. Number two, this is a leak that I have received a while back, and I've waited long enough for this information to definitely not be pertinent anymore to any in-development content at Valve, if in fact it is real, because I don't know if this is legitimate or not. I have only heard the majority of this story from a single anonymous source, a source that I was unable to completely verify when conversing with the source itself. So it's up in the air. I really do not know if what this person told me is 100% legitimate. If it's a troll, this is a phenomenal troll. And to explain why I think this is one of the best leaks, even if it was fake, is this. This is supposedly key art for a version of Half-Life 3 that started in development in 2013 and was canceled in the summer of 2015. I'm going to leave it up on the screen for the rest of the video, and I am going to tell you about the canceled story of Half-Life 3. Half-Life 3 went through many points in development. It started as Episode 3, it was canceled, Portal 2 started development, and then a Source Engine Half-Life 3 started almost exactly after Portal 2's closing, and that ended up being incredibly boring and predictable, so they cut that, and in 2013 they started a brand new concept for Half-Life 3. This, of course, being what we're discussing right now. In this version, the beginning of the game took place in a weird dream sequence montage, where you not only see different events taking place after Half-Life 2 Episode 2, but you see some wars, you see some battles between the Combine and the Rebels, and you're not completely conscious to exactly what is happening. This bit supposedly took a little bit of time to get through. There were many different set pieces, and you were phasing in and out of your own consciousness. This, of course, was supposed to be some kind of hold the G-Man had on Gordon. However, through this weird dream sequence, you eventually phased into what looked like a test chamber, and you woke up in a decrepit, falling apart glass case. You woke up on a bed and you find that your arm has been severed off. Your arm has been replaced with a robotic appendage with a cable going from your shoulder into your inner neck with an Aperture Science logo on the arm itself. The arm apparently was the main gameplay mechanic of this game, and we're not going to be getting into what it did. Gordon Freeman is apparently in Aperture Science, and the first couple bits of the game are a tutorial section that plays like Portal that teaches the player how to use this arm that we're not going to get into. Eventually, Gordon gets out of Aperture Science and finds himself in an American-style city taken over by the Combine, and this is where it gets interesting. At this point in development, this version of the game was supposed to take many different cues from the beta of Half-Life 2. For those unaware, Half-Life 2 leaked in 2003, and the majority of the quote-unquote playable stuff right at the leak looked very similar to what we got as retail, just broken and unfinished. However, a second thing leaked called the WC Map Pack, or the Worldcraft Map Pack, and this included about 1/3 of every development map that Valve had made for Half-Life 2 up until that point, and it showed a significant amount of concepts, including a New York City-style city that had Combine and a lot of smoke, and it was very dark, and child workers, and it was a completely different tone than what we ended up getting. A tone that a large portion of the people that follow the community love more than the tone we got, and the developers wanted to match that. The city that Gordon apparently was walking through was very much matched to the city of the Half-Life 2 beta. Not only that, but cremators patrolled the streets and cleaned up things like head crabs, bull squids, hound eyes, and other enemies that you did not see in Half-Life 2 but existed in Half-Life 1. Gordon met up with a very small group of rebels because at this point, 20 years have passed again, and not a whole lot of the rebels exist following Episode 2. You see, the Combine were very strong, and a lot of the forces that they had on Earth during the events of the Half-Life 2 episodes were only a fraction of what they were capable of. And following the Citadel's destruction and the death of a few key members of the rebellion, a lot of things fell apart. So what ends up happening is Gordon and these rebels escape from the city and make their way to a cremator factory. In this version of the story, cremators were citizens that broke the law, and they were tortured and turned into the cremators. What they wanted to do was take over the facility, take the cremators that were already created and turn them into a pseudo-army for the rebels themselves to further their own rebellion efforts. What ends up happening though is they make it to the cremator factory, and that's as far as they got. The story of a Half-Life game is made linearly, and in the summer of 2015, there was a massive disagreement on exactly what the main focus of development should be. Without going into any specifics, do you remember the nose video? That coincided with a major fight that then led to a large portion of the people being kicked off the team, and the people still working on it left with almost nothing. There were a few gameplay features that they wanted to try in this version. The crowbar zipline that we've all seen came from this. And what ended up happening was they couldn't get a team together that wanted to continue the work following the departure of a few major players in the series, because the disagreements included the people that you are aware of. There were a few things that the No said in their video that ended up being true. The skeleton team of 10 being the most important bit of information. They weren't afraid. There were some things that they said that were either hearsay from the person because it's a single perspective or just made up to complete the video, but generally, yeah, there was a version of the game that was in development from 2013 to 2015, and it was, without a doubt, the furthest Half-Life 3 ever got along in development, and unfortunately, it fell apart because of a large disagreement between the different members of the development team itself. This that you're looking at is apparently key art from this version of Half-Life 3 named Post-Human, and like I said, if this ended up being some significantly smart troll, I think you can see that the art that you're looking at right now is well made. The story that was being made here seemed to want to go somewhere. There are a lot of details that I am leaving out for many different reasons. I may touch on them at some point in the future, but keep in mind, this is unconfirmed. This is something I just wanted to try and tell you guys because I've waited quite a long time to be able to talk about this information, and to be completely honest, enough time has passed that a lot of what's going on in this story no longer pertains to modern development at Valve Software. We're awaiting HLVR, and HLVR is not Half-Life 3, not even close. It's a prequel where you play as Alex. Gordon is gonna be like at the end or something, so I have no idea.